Oh, where's my little microphone at? Is it this one I'm using right now? I don't know. Hold on. Okay. Hello, everyone. It's Cassandra Williamson with the Midday with Cassandra, and hopefully you can hear me. I'm going to check my microphone, see which one is picking up here for right now. The snowball. Okay. Yeah, that thing. It's picking up. All right. So it is Thursday, I think. Isn't it Thursday? Yeah, the 4th of September of 2025. And oh my God, we've got a few things to talk about today. I'm going to try to be as fast as I freaking can about this. First thing is, I did a little live breaking thing earlier this morning, and it was about Texas and Florida. So there's a couple of things going on besides the point that we have our secretary, not Dr. Kennedy, gave testimony before the House today. And that man's an idiot. Y'all know that? How many of y'all know that? He says he wants to return it to gold standard science, but the thing is, it has to meet his definition of what gold standard is. In other words, it can't support vaccines, and it can't support any kind of real scientifically based medical treatments. It's got to be fantasies. It's got to be fairy tales. It's got to be conspiracy theories. That's what he's promoting, and he's just full of crap. The biggest danger to our country in the health department that I have ever seen. That man is a ludicrous waste of time and space. Has no business being a dog catcher, much less the Secretary of Health and Human Services. Mr. Kennedy, you need to crawl back under your rock. Tie yourself to that chained down chair that's in the back of that cave and just continue to stare at the shadows on the wall as the rest of the world passes by on the outside and you're trying to interpret it. Yeah, you need to go back there because you are a disaster, Mr. Kennedy. And then we've got Florida. Oh, goodness. The head of the Florida Department of Health, another person who is actually a doctor, but I think he got his doctorate from the bottom of the box in the Cracker Jack's aisle. I mean, there must have been those little metal things down in there he was stepping on to get to it. Either that, or it was a cut and paste diploma or something, or certificate of graduation or something, because stopping vaccine mandates. Look, you know why vaccine mandates are important? Because your kids go to schools and other kids can have these diseases and these kind of different infections, and they'll give it to your kid. And without a vaccine mandate, well, guess what can happen? Your kid can die. Those other kids can die, especially if the parents decide that they know better than doctors. But you know something? I do push repeatedly. I push for getting a doctor out between, not to be in between you and your health care. But that's when it comes to things that just impact you alone. We aren't individuals that are just alone, isolated creatures in this world when it comes to diseases, folks. We are not. We engage with people in schools and communities and restaurants and our businesses and work and play and all of that kind of thing. And it's kind of there's a nuance to all of this that people are missing, folks. One, you don't want a politician standing between you and your doctor when it's talking about your bodily autonomy and your desire to take care of your child for things like, I don't know, say gender dysphoria. That's not contagious. That's not something that can be spread through a virus. There is no such thing as social contagion with that. But with the measles and rubella and smallpox and polio, those things are transmittable. And that's why there were vaccine mandates. When I was growing up, we all were required to get the shot because we were in close proximity to other people. Not that it would 100% prevent us from getting those things, but it would give us a better chance at not getting them, or at least not being as severe with us. So you got this crazy doctor running the health department down in Florida who is removing the mandate for vaccines in the state. That is the stupidest thing anybody could be doing, but it follows in line with Secretary Kennedy, who is absolutely an idiot. An idiot. Oh, God, is he ever. But this guy down in Florida, removing the vaccine mandate, saying that you need to have autonomy, you need to be able to freely choose to care for your children. Well, look, your children don't go to school by themselves. They don't exist in a bubble, folks. Measles and smallpox and polio and all of these kind of things are preventable by vaccines, or at least slowed down. And as a matter of fact, some of these things were completely eliminated, but they're coming back because of vaccine hesitancy, or because somebody has decided that they know better than what the professionals who have actually studied this stuff for their entire lives know. So I do put this image up. Let me go ahead and put this image on the screen right here. I'm going to put an image up here. Let me pull it up from my little source of images. There it is. Okay, right there. So we'll put this image on the screen for you to look at. Politicians are standing in the doorway blocking your access to see your doctor, but it's also to see anything. Politicians think they can stand in that doorway to tell you who and how and what you can do for your own body, for yourself, that autonomy that you have, that every human being should have, but doesn't, the autonomy to make decisions for themselves. But this thing does not apply, though, when people are engaging in a social environment such as schools and restaurants and play or whatever, work, or in the military, anything like that. Because then contagious diseases can spread. This image you see over here, this meme with Wallace on one side and Kennedy on the other, and all the other nuts in between, that's talking about, one, abortion. Two, it's talking about gender dysphoria and gender affirming care. Those aren't contagious, folks. Those aren't contagious. They're different. So you have to have a nuanced response to these things. And they're incapable of seeing this. They don't have the brain power to see it. They don't have the brain power to understand that what they're doing by removing these vaccine mandates for your children and other people in public places, that they are opening the door up for diseases to just spread. Makes you think that maybe that's what they want to do. Maybe they want it to cull the society down and, kind of cut down the number of people in the population, particularly those who are more vulnerable to it, and particularly those who are, let's say minorities who have less access to health care. Makes you wonder, doesn't it? It does make you wonder. Makes me wonder. Yeah. So it makes you question why they would do that. They know those kids have to go to school and interact with others. They know those kids are not in a bubble where they cannot catch another person's disease. My sister and I just got off the phone, and she's talking about her granddaughter, who she's the caregiver, the main person for. She's adopted her granddaughter. So granddaughter is just starting school, brings back all these little sicknesses and things and brings it back home. And then she gets sick. My sister gets sick. Her husband gets sick. And then it's because they got the kid brought it back from school. Now just imagine this very real possibility that some parent in the school had decided that they did not want their kid to receive the polio vaccine or the smallpox vaccine or the measles vaccine. And then she picked up that. And if she hadn't been vaccinated against it, and my sister and her husband had not been vaccinated against it, that increases the chance that they would get it. Increases the chance that it could be very life-threatening and debilitating. So what is going on? There's just stupidity down in Florida. oh my God. Then you had the transportation thing going around, and ostensibly it was remove all art, all displays on crosswalks and roads that might distract people from driving safely, when in fact there is no study to support that. And well, unless you get Kennedy involved, and then you can create a study for it. You get more of that gold standard science that he's approved of. Yeah, do it for the transportation department. Anyway, Florida Department of Transportation is going around moving all signage on the roads, also, the artwork on the roads everywhere, regardless of whether or not it's pride related or not. But we know the focus, because the governor said it and the Department of Transportation person said it, that their goal is to eliminate the crosswalks that are pride oriented, pride colored, particularly, like the one that's in front of the Pulse nightclub where the 49 people were killed. And it was a crosswalk. I've been to that place. It's a very, very sobering experience. But they're removing that. But in order to make it sound legitimate, they included everything else. That way it kind of gives them some cover to say that we aren't discriminating against just pride things. But we've heard the governor say otherwise. We've heard the Department of Transportation director say otherwise. We've heard Sean Duffy, the federal transportation person, say otherwise. We know what they're going after, which is LGBT people and anything that represents them in public. They just are so butthurt because somebody put up a pride painting on a crosswalk somewhere. But you know what happens at those, and this has been studied and proven, that those crosswalks are actually safer. Why? They're colorful, they're bright, they stand out, people slow down. Fewer accidents occur around crosswalks that have been painted with bright colors and stuff like that, and other kinds of engaging artwork or whatever it might be. But like I said, it's not about just removing all of them. They want to remove specifically the pride ones, and they said so. But to give themselves legal cover, they've gone around and said, no, we're going to take them all down because it's a safety issue. No, that's not what it really is. They have some ignorant, stupid ideas about trans people and LGBT people that goes back for 50, 60, 70 years, because, they're just so butthurt that somebody else would express any kind of views other than the ones they have approved and appreciated of, and, and identified as being something that's consistent with what they think we ought to be doing. So that's Florida, just in the past week or two. Now let's go over to Texas. Take a look at Texas. Oh my. What's going on in Texas, you say? Well, how many of you have heard about the 10 Commandments that the state has ordered to be put back in all the schools across the state and classrooms across the state? The 10 Commandments. Ostensibly, they're saying that it's about restoring historical perspective, but we know that's a load of crap and a lie. Bold-faced lie. That's not what it's about. That's not what it's about. How do I know that? Even Texas said preachers shouldn't be in government. They were separating their government, which they considered to be secular, from their preachers, which have a totally different thing to pursue and protect. Their congregations, maybe. But Texas wasn't the only one. That was during their republic time, when they were an independent country of their own. It was in their constitution. But states within the United States also had certain statutes and policies and rules and laws within those states that said the same thing, essentially, back in the early 1800s. And then there's the Jay Treaty, which said that the United States is a secular nation and in no way was founded on Christian theology. The Jay Treaty actually worked out a deal between the Muslim Barbary pirates who were invading or capturing ships, particularly Christian ships, enslaving the people, taking all the money, or killing the people, one way or the other. And the United States was wanting to work out a deal with them. And in the process of doing so, they said, we are a secular nation, not founded on Christian ideology or theology. Yeah. But then there were two interpretations of the Jay Treaty after that. One of them said, yeah, that clause was in there. And the other one said, no, that clause wasn't in there. And then there was a big hup to hup, all kinds of crap going on in the United States over the fact that that was initially in there, and people were getting all mad about it and stuff like that because people thought that it should be or that it shouldn't be. This kind of divisiveness has been brewing for a long time in this country, literally. Okay. All right. So Texas with the Bill of Rights, not the Bill of Rights, the 10 Commandments going back into the schools. Well, look, we know that these politicians are incrementalists, and it's not something that just Republicans do. It's not something that just Democrats do. They all do this, okay? So what's happened is they finally figured out a way after many tests of figuring out how to get something through the court system to make it pass up to the Supreme Court as seamlessly as possible. They worked it all out on the 10 Commandments thing. It took a number of years, decades, really, I guess, to kind of work that process through where they get to the place where they can do that and then challenge that particular ruling that said you couldn't do that, put the 10 Commandments in government places. So, but now that Texas has actually said, no, we're going to do that, and they're doing it. They've gone the next step. They've gone to the next step. There's two things that they have done. The first one in relation to that, the Attorney General Ken Paxton has said, put it out in a memo, wants to find ways to get the Lord's Prayer read in every school in the state. Not just posted up there, but read out loud in the school systems across the state. They go for the 10 Commandments, knowing darn well there are students within that state who are Muslim, are Jewish, Buddhist, Hindu, you name it. 45,000 different sects of Christianity and 150 different sects of Islam. And who knows how many other thousands of different religious views around this country. You have no business pushing yours onto the whole of society within your state, Paxton, given that there are so many other people who don't agree with you, who have different views on things. But he's trying to find a way to do that for the Lord's Prayer to be read in schools across the state. Of course, it will be stopped in courts and all that kind of stuff. And that's what they want, though, because that gives them an opportunity to figure out a way to refine the language in order to get it through this year under one certain set of situations or conditions. And then next year they go and try a different thing and try to expand what they did before. They create a precedent with something that is not what they really want to be, but not where they want it to be. But they start that precedent and then they start building on it and taking things away even further down the road. That's how that works. That's incrementalism. It happens on the left, on the right, with the Democrats, Republicans, Independents. All of them do that. They try to find a way to get their thing through, their bill or their law or their statute or whatever they're trying to do. They'll manipulate the words to the point to get it acceptable here in this year. Next year, they keep moving the ball towards where they want it to be. 10 Commandments, now prayer in school. That's what Paxton wants. The 10 Commandments back. Not the 10 Commandments, so you got the 10 Commandments in there, but now it's the Lord's Prayer. Look, I don't have anything against those things. That's fine. But you have no business trying to tell someone who is raised a Muslim and believes in the Muslim faith that you've got to do it this way, that that's what we're going to be doing. Or you're a Jewish kid in your school systems who may not want to hear anything about the Lord's Prayer or any of those things. Or you have atheists in your schools, or you have Buddhists and Hindus in your schools, or you have nativists in your schools. Texas, you are not a Christian state. You are not. 1836 in that original Constitution under the Republic of Texas, you ought to read it sometime. You should read it. That's your history. They did not want preachers in positions of power because they knew for two things. They would be distracted from their obligation to their congregation, and two, they would try to impose a non-separation between church and state, because back then people actually understood that to be the case. 1836 under the Republic of Texas, but also under states, different states, Tennessee, Kentucky, and Virginia. The very ones today who have fallen off the boat, okay, and all of that stuff. Wow, have we fallen so far? Now let's go on to another topic in Texas. All right, everybody knows Texas is the place with the harshest anti-abortion rules, laws, and regulations in the country. Well, they've stepped their game up a little bit, folks. The Senate in Texas, I forget the bill number of 8 or 13 or something like that, but a bill was passed out of the Senate yesterday, maybe, or the day before yesterday, something like that. And in that bill, it said that any person who discovers that another person in the state has ordered abortion pills and had them sent into the state, that they could file a lawsuit. They authorized individual lawsuits against other individuals so that they can create a rat line. You got a bunch of people out there going, oh, look, over there, somebody's getting some abortion pills. Let's turn them in. Orwell was right, folks. Y'all just don't realize who it applies to. Phew, we have gone far in this country, haven't we? Anyway, come back at 6. I want to talk about some more stuff, but right now I've been at it for long enough. And we still have to deal with Secretary, not Dr. Kennedy, and his conspiracy theory gold standard of science, that he wants to eliminate the real good science, the real gold standards of science and scientific process from the Health and Human Services across all of federal government, and including in the states. He wants to eliminate all of that, falsely claiming that that's not gold standard science, when in fact it is. It's very scientific method. It gets peer reviewed. It's checked. Everybody knows it. But you want to put in your conspiracy theories, not Dr. Kennedy. All you can do is shake your head. There's so much stupidity in this federal government right now. I'm glad California, Oregon, and Washington are trying to figure out a way to create their own CDC, because their own type of CDC to operate within those states. And I hope other states do the same. You're going to have to get yourself separated from this federal government that is absolutely unhinged from reality, unhinged from rational thinking and scientific thought or anything like that. And it still just pisses me off that Florida has ended the vaccine mandates. Why? I mean, what are you going to do? Open the door up so that more kids can die from smallpox, measles, and rubella, and be forced to experience polio, things that we mostly have under control in this country because of the vaccines? But you're going to let non-doctors, non-professionals decide that in a social context, like in school or whatever, in a playground or in your business, that, yeah, we're just not going to worry about the contagious side of that. This is not for the public good. This is for the public destruction, particularly of those who cannot or cannot easily get access to the care they need. But I suspect that's probably what it's all about, isn't it? Come back at 6. I'll see you later.